Hello everyone, Daryl here again. How's everybody doing today? Nice sunny fall day here in Michigan, and we're gonna do another project on the old F-150. This is my 2003 F-150 that I purchased brand new. It's got 377,000 miles on it. And I got it in February of 03. It's got the 4.6 V8 code W, which is a Romeo, Michigan motor, an automatic transmission, two-wheel drive. I used it for my primary car back and forth to work for years. Now I drive the Escape that you see me working on every once in a while, but I still keep the truck just to have it around in case there's an issue. This has been a great truck. The only major repair I've ever had to do on it is the timing chain tensioners, which was a big deal, but even the battery in this was just replaced 2 years ago. The original battery lasted over 11 years. And I just love this truck. It's been so reliable and so great. Never regretted buying it once. We've done a couple other things to it over the years. A fuel pump. And really, the front end was all rebuilt, of course, and all the suspension parts, maintenance things, brakes, suspension, tires, stuff like that. Like I say, the timing chain tensioners, the battery, fuel pump, and now today the water pump has failed. So we're going to replace the water pump, and it's a pretty easy job on this, and I will show you most of the steps here on how to do the water pump on this, and it's something you can easily do yourself and save a bunch of money. The first thing I'm going to do is remove the intake ductwork here by removing this, there it is right there, 8mm hose clamp here, and I'll remove the clip here where the air conditioner or air cleaner housing is inside of. We'll release that, and then there'll be one connector there for the mass airflow sensor. I'll disconnect and set aside. Then I can just take this whole assembly here off and lay it aside. That will open up the front of the engine more, and then I'll remove the shroud that goes around the fan, and that'll give me room to reach the front of the motor. I'll also drain the coolant, and then we'll be back. Alright, I've got the shrouding off. I used my 1/2-inch breaker bar to loosen the belt, remove the belt. I've got the retainer screws off for this fan shroud, but now in order to get the fan shroud off, I need to remove the fan clutch blade first. So which feels like it might be going bad. But what I'm going to do, I'm going to remove the 4 bolts on the water pump pulley, and then the whole pulley and fan clutch assembly should come off, and I'll be able to pull this shroud out, and we'll have easy access to the water pump, which is only 4 bolts. Alright, well, I've forgotten that the fan clutch actually screws onto the water pump right here, and you need to unscrew that before we get any further along. And it probably would have been easier to unscrew it if I would have left the belt in place, because that would have actually helped hold it steady while I was unscrewing. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to stick a pry bar between 2 of the pulley mounting bolts, hook a large wrench onto that square nut part of the fan clutch assembly, and unscrew it in a counterclockwise direction facing the front of the truck. Alright, we've unscrewed the fan clutch. I dropped it back out of the way, pulled the shroud forward toward the cab of the truck, or to the back toward the rear of the truck, reached down between the shroud, grabbed the fan clutch and pulled it out between the radiator and the shroud. Once the fan clutch was out, the shroud lifted right out and away, exposing a clear and open path. Hello, Tinsel the Christmas Cat is here to help. Check him out on Instagram. Alright, now we have 4 bolts here that I've already loosened that hold the pulley on, and once that's off, there'll be 4 more bolts that hold the water pump on. And there's your view with the pulley removed. And again, there are 4 bolts that hold it in place right here on the corners. 1, 2, 3, and one underneath here is 4. Oops, underneath here. So there's 4. We're going to get those off there real quick. Let's see. Alright, here we go. We've retrieved the old water pump. There we go. You can see it. It's a O-ring fit pump, so there's no gasket to worry about. Should be a very easy installation. Stainless steel impeller. Still looks decent, but if you spin it, hang on, this is going to be tricky, but here you go. Hear it? You can hear that weird growling noise it's making. Bearings under shot. It was actually leaking. And we've got the brand new one from Gates. That was $39 at my local Auto Value, I think it's Auto Value, auto parts store. I'll show you that one right here. Brand new, not remanufactured. I would say probably better quality than what you're going to get at AutoZone, but I'm not sure about that. Maybe not. I'll show it again here. Well, let's go up to the front of the car and compare just to make sure everything matches up. Alright, here we are in the shade where we can see better. New water pump, new seals, nice shiny impeller. Oh, there we go. Did I zoom? I don't think I meant to zoom. Let's see. Yep, I zoomed. Here we go. The new for threads to keep it from getting damaged. Looks just like the old one. 4 screw holes and a freeze plug. And here's the old one. 4 holes and a freeze plug. Looks identical. Alright, we're going to clean, now we're going to get in there, we're going to clean that out with a rag. We're going to apply a little bit of grease to the O-ring when we put it in so we get a nice smooth fit before we torque the bolts down. Alright, here I am applying a thin coating of clean grease to the O-ring around the outer edge of it. That protects the O-ring from damage as you're sliding it into its housing, lubricates it, and helps you get in nice and smooth. Now we're going to install the new water pump with the freeze plug facing downward, and the 3 bolts are close together on top. You just gently insert it into the hole, rock it back and forth a little while you're pushing, and it should pop right into place. And I'm going to have to use 2 hands, so I'm putting you down. Alright, there was a little corrosion on the bolts and the threads, so I used my thumbnail as a guide, and I twisted the thumbnail and the bolts out and used my thumbnail as a scraper tool to clean the threads out. And then I applied a little bit of grease to the threads to make them thread in easier and help protect them. I'm going to tighten the bolts up hand tight as far as I can on each of the 4. And then as I tighten them down beyond that, I'm going to go alternating left, right, top, bottom, so that the O-ring and everything will pull in nice and straight, and the whole pump will snap and tighten down perfectly flush with the mount and not be crooked. And then I'll tighten them up nice and snug, a good tightness. I don't use a torque wrench usually on things like this that don't have moving parts involved, where it's not something like an engine connecting rod or something really serious mechanically tight that needs to be super torqued. I get an idea of how much effort it took to break it loose when I took it apart, and I just use the same amount of force or a little more to tighten it up when I'm putting it back together. So I know a lot of people out there don't have a torque wrench, and this is what my channel is all about, showing you how to get by with the basic tools and get the job done and save some money. Alright, well, we're all bolted back together. Feels nice and tight. While you got it apart, it's a good idea to check your other pulleys. Make sure there's a little bit of play in that alternator pulley. Not making too much of a sound though, so it should be okay. And check your idler pulley there for your belt, that's good. And your other idler pulley for the belt, that's good. And the power steering pump pulley, a little play in that. Alright, now I got the water pump pulley back on. 4 bolts for that, tightened down. Check that, works nice and smooth. And while you still have the front here off, it's a great idea to go ahead and put your belt back on. Inspect the belt for cracks or damage and put it back on. So much easier to do. I mean, it was so easy to do with all this stuff not in the way. And the one pulley I didn't show you, I gotta point this out real quick, while we were doing this, was the air conditioning pulley under here. And I didn't show you that because it's already freezed up, frozen up, seized up, whatever you want to call it, and non-functional. And you can see I have not installed a bypass pulley on there. I've actually rerouted the serpentine belt to avoid going around that pulley. I got a shorter belt. It was quite a bit shorter than the original belt. And they don't tell you that at the auto parts store. No one seems to know about this. But you get a shorter belt and you reroute it. So instead of going underneath this idler pulley and down around the air compressor, you go over the top of this pulley and then back down around the tensioner and the crankshaft. And it works great. I've had it running like this for 2 years and not a bit of trouble. I have another video just related to that particular topic on how to bypass the air conditioning compressor on the Ford V8s when they seize up. And you should check that other video out because there's a lot of useful information in there. I will also email charts and routing diagrams if you need them. But if you're looking at this picture right here in this video, you can clearly see how the belt's routed. Over the alternator, around the idler. Actually, it's going, the wrong way around the idler. The grooves in the pulley are actually facing the flat part of the idler. That has not proven to be a problem for me at all over 2 years, but there is a grooved idler you can buy to put on that position if you really wanted to. Down around under the tensioner, down to the crankshaft, around the crankshaft, back up from the crankshaft, around the water pump, down to the power steering pump, and back up to the alternator. Very simple, easy to do once you see how it works. So this project's pretty much done. We're going to go ahead and put the shroud back in place. Then we will screw the fan clutch onto those threads right there, bolt the shroud down, reinstall the upper radiator hose, the cover plate over the shroud, and refill the coolant, reinstall the air cleaner snorkel, or the intake house, the airflow tubing that goes from the air filter to the throttle body, and make sure you hook the connector back up for the mass airflow sensor. I believe that's all that we've disconnected here, and we'll be good to go. I'll be back when we're all done. Just to show you how this is going to work, I've set the shroud in place. I've got the fan in my hand. I'm going to slip it down here through there like that and then screw it on. The top shroud is very easy to get loose. There's 2 bolts, 8mm, one underneath the transmission cooling line and one underneath the radiator spout. Just take those 2 bolts out, and then the shroud lifts up out of a couple of brackets, and that's all it holds in is those 2 bolts. You lift it up and slide it off. And then the radiator hose over here will just compress that spring clip and put that back on. Alright, a series of push pins hold this top shroud on. You pull the push pin so it's extended like that, line up the clip with the thing, push it in from the base, and then just depress the center. Depress the center, and that holds it in. We're going to go put all these back in. Alright, another project successfully completed. Saved a bunch of money. You can do it yourself and save some money too. The only tools I used for this were a ratchet handle with extension, 8, 10, and 12mm sockets, a pry bar, a large wrench for the fan clutch, which I used a pipe wrench, and a pair of pliers to loosen the clamp on that. And that was the only tools required. So there you go. Thanks for watching. Have a great day. Be sure to check out my other video on how to bypass the AC clutch and all my other adventures, explorations, Disney stuff, and car repairs. Thanks for watching. Have a great day. Do it yourself and save some money.